Welcome to an episode of FAFO, the greatest new thing that's sweeping America right now. Yes, I am Canadian, and unfortunately this kind of politics can affect us as well. So platforming these stories helps us here in the Great White North, and teaches us that not everyone's electable, and our choices do have consequences.
MAGA family, I still haven't found anywhere to go for Thanksgiving. I reached out to some people that commented on my post.
Well, I don't know what to tell you, but we're gonna find out.
For example, these grandparents were cut off by the decisions they made. Actions always has consequences. Up next, we have a story of a person that serves as a great example. F around and find out.
One of my ex-co-workers voted for Trump, and she said she cannot wait for this whole abortion thing to go into plan. It's time for him to weed out the weak, and if you can't handle having a kid, then don't sleep with anybody. She is now pregnant by a black man, and her family has removed her from the will.
Bruh.
And they have been arguing on Facebook for the past 3 days. And the husband's trying to take the kids. Things are looking up.
It just goes to show that no matter how you look at it, you still lose. This is a great example of someone's decisions catching up to them. Did I betray my immigrant parents by voting for Trump? I am a first-generation American whose parents were once illegal immigrants. They've long since obtained citizenship. I voted for Trump in a non-swing, democratic state, so my vote was solely to express my belief, which was that Donald Trump would be a strong leader in a seemingly increasingly divisive and hostile world, alongside the idea that he would be proactive in comparison to Kamala, who unfortunately has a rep for not taking much action alongside the Biden administration. Apart from this, I also believe she wasn't ready for the role given what I've seen from the interviews. She was thrust into a campaign 90 days prior to the election. Unfortunately, this vote can be seen as choosing a better evil, knowing very well of Trump's character, but regardless deciding he would be the best choice as president. Political views aside, as I know there are many angles to further debate and evaluate this, was a vote for Trump a betrayal to my family? I've recently read an article of how doing so under my circumstances would be considered as so, and I'm feeling heavily guilty. Regardless, I want to know the consensus. The very short TLDR is yes, it is a betrayal. We all know how hateful Trump is, and the MAGA crowd for that matter. It doesn't matter if your parents are illegal or not, they're gone. I can see his concern for Kamala Harris, and yes, some of those points are valid. However, only one of the leaders is increasingly hostile and divisive, and it sure wasn't Kamala. People are breaking down on TikTok because they just realized Obamacare is the Affordable Care Act. The heartbreaking part? So many have pre-existing conditions. One man admitted he voted for Trump without knowing it was Obamacare that allowed his mother with stage 4 cancer to get treatment. This is what happens when misinformation wins over facts. What a perfect example of leopard ate my face. However, we back at home still have a problem with misinformation, especially on Facebook. There's certain Facebook groups that infiltrate the local community, that spread said information, and harms the community as a whole. Over on Truth Social, some big discoveries being made on Truth Social right now. Wait, China doesn't pay the tariffs? This is the problem with misinformation that has been spreading in the Manosphere podcasts. That's showing some real-life FAFO examples. Actions have consequences.
A few weeks ago, I told you about how I have a student who, after the debate, was telling me he's very like, Trump, yeah. Well, that kid is, in fact, over 18 years old and a legal citizen and did, in fact, vote and self-reported that he voted for Trump. After the election, he didn't come to school for several days and was really quiet, really withdrawn. Finally, the kid starts opening up. I'm like, what's going on? Where have you been, friend? Like, what's up? He's really sad, very quiet. He's like, Trump wants to deport everyone who's illegal. I was like, yeah, that's like literally his thing. He's like, my parents are illegal. I'm like, yeah, I knew that. Did you not know that? He's like, my parents are scared. I'm like, no shit. He's like, well, my girlfriend's also illegal. I'm like, did you not know that too? How do I know these things about your family, but you don't know these old things about your family? First of all, so his girlfriend and her parents and his parents have all gone into hiding because they're terrified that they're going to get deported. And this kid is now basically without like a mom who could really be there. Dad has already left the country, and girlfriend is like traumatized, and he's just baffled by all of this. He's just baffled by all this. Can you believe all this? FAFO, bro.
And I knew this was gonna happen. Due to all the hatred that was happening in Springfield, Ohio, they are now leaving in droves. And why wouldn't they with such a hostile environment? Of course, this is gonna hurt their economy. And don't forget the 25% tariffs on top of this. Not to mention the repeal of ACA. There's a lot of sick people that are not gonna be able to work. So thousands of jobs are gonna remain vacant. And I can't see that plan surviving. And don't forget the spin-off to this economy, such as restaurants, all gonna go. There's a massive amount of money that's gonna be gone from the city and the local economy. And many of the jobs the immigrants were doing is what Americans just don't want to do. But those Haitians were hard workers and willing to do the work the rest of the Americans simply just didn't want to do. And ever since Trump, they're now gone, leaving no one to fill those jobs, tanking their fragile economy. Boomer grandparents don't believe that Trump appointed Dr. Oz. I literally went around and around with my boomers about this. I mentioned casually that Trump appointed Dr. Oz, and they started freaking out about how that couldn't possibly be true and it's gotta be fake news. I couldn't get it through their heads that it's just a fact and it's not fake news. And these are the same ones that believe anything that's negative about Trump must be AI. If I mention anything that's something about Trump that they don't like, it's automatically AI or fake news. But they believe everything they hear about Kamala, which my grandma refuses to even pronounce her name right. I show them all what there was about it, and they think that all the news outlets are putting out is fake news. Oh yeah, and these are the same boomers that voted for Trump knowing that he might deport my immigrant dad. Are they all this stupid? Sorry for the rub, but it's just enormously frustrating, especially since I live with them and they pay my college tuition.
I have been laughing for like 15 minutes.
Good family friend, works as a teacher in a local school district, and as a special education teacher. Diehard Trump fan, voted for Trump, was beating her chest all about it. Mid-30s, she actually just got this job a couple of years ago and was very excited about the opportunity. But what she didn't realize for some reason, and just recently found out yesterday, in fact, was that her position is 100% funded by a federal grant from the OSEP program. Yeah, OSEP is Office of Special Education. It's a division of the U.S. Department of Education, and they provide federal funding in the form of grants to assist in local communities, ensuring that they have proper coverage, if you will, and funding for special education needs. This lady's job is 100% funded by that office. So the find out hasn't been 100% realized, but this lady is scared because now all of a sudden she does care about the Department of Education and she does appreciate it. She flat out said that she didn't know that, and if she had, maybe she might not have voted for Trump. The reason she says that is because she knows and believes that Trump is, in fact, going after the Department of Education. She didn't think it affected her, so she didn't give a she gives a now. So I don't want to laugh at the lady. It sucks. But at the same time, MAGA.
Am I the a-hole for calling off my engagement after my partner revealed he's MAGA? My fiance and I have been together since 2013, since we met in college. He struggled to get a well-paying job, and during his long bouts of unemployment, he must have been radicalized to blame everyone else. I chalked it up to depression, and I tried to get him help with therapy. I paid for him to return to school and to become a nurse too, but he still has not completed the prereqs after 7 years. He currently works gig jobs while I'm a nurse in California, making close to $400K a year while working full-time. I was hoping to save up the money enough to not have to work after having a baby, since I cannot rely on him. We were planning to get married next year and wanted to try for a baby. He knows I'm very liberal and all about women's rights. He never openly expressed for support for MAGA until after Trump won, and said Trump will help with the economy and finally allow him to get a good job. I told him that it was the easiest time to get a job in the past 20 years since 2001, yet he couldn't. I'm not giving into sunken costs and staying, and he didn't know. But he did make an offhand comment before on women losing their worth or the older they get, and I questioned him and he said it was a joke. The past week has been miserable listening to him talk non-stop on how great Trump is and how he will turn everything great again. I had and gave him notice to leave by the end of the month, and we were through. He told me it was unfair and it was stupid to give up on us over politics. The very fact that he said that solidified the notion that he's so clueless and our values are too different. He would likely have to move back into his parents' home or be homeless since he makes less than $35K a year in the most expensive region in the USA. Am I the hill for throwing away my relationship of 11 years over politics? I wish politics was boring again. No, you're not the a-hole for this one. In fact, those offhand remarks are definitely red flags. When they said they are joking, they're definitely not. His failures in life should not be put on you or anyone else. He showed quite clearly he's delusional, and quite clearly doesn't care about your rights as a woman or individual, especially with that remark about how women get older.
I'm going to say the uncomfortable part out loud. The Germans who supported Hitler in the beginning are these same Germans who turned in their neighbors. It is a matter of safety that you cut these people out of your life. It's not just morals. Speaking as someone who has loudly dissented all over the internet for the last 8 years, I'm not wasting a calorie questioning whether or not you're going to turn me or my friends in. You're out.
Edit. Last night he threatened to unalive when the gravity situation hit him. His mother is babysitting him at her house to avoid a 5150 while at work. His father's packing up his belongings and will move them out of my house by the end of the week. It is over. I am letting him be MAGA. I cannot support someone who supports a rapist felon, etc. who want to take away my rights. He knows I'm an assault victim. Majority of our friends are cutting ties with him after they learned the reason of our breakup. Luckily, his parents are extremely left even by my standards, so we may get a better balance of news instead of the conservative forums he frequents. People grow apart and we grew apart. One could break up for any reason or no reason at all. I simply asked if I was the a-hole to do it, not if it was right or wrong. Men are justified for breaking up with women if she gets fat, but if a woman breaks up over a moral difference, it's wrong? You did the right thing kicking him to the curb. And don't forget, with Project 2025, they're getting rid of divorces too, so better get rid of him now.
To all the white people who don't consider themselves racist, you are, unfortunately, a large part of why racism persists. When you say nothing, you are complicit. Excusing racist behavior by saying your grandparents were born in a different time or that's just how they were raised does not absolve you. It makes you just as culpable. I literally saw a video on TikTok of a young white woman who went through photos of her grandmother and found her grandmother dressed as a Klansman. That young white woman laughed like it was the funniest thing since Richard Pryor. White people need to hold each other accountable and enforce consequences. Racist grandmother? Cut her off. Racist sibling? Cut them off. Racist best friend since childhood? Cut them off. The racist grandmother on her deathbed who wants to see you one last time? Don't fulfill that request. That racist father who hates that you married a black man but wants to know your children? Don't expose them to that hate. That friend who's getting married but won't let you bring your black or person of color significant other because they're marrying into a racist family? Don't go to that wedding. Racism needs consequences.
And hate also persists when people with privilege make up excuses and hide behind free speech to not do proper moderation, which help foster hateful comments, which then breaks down the community. Always stand up to hate, and there are simply no excuses for it. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell. And remember, always stay